want to put the pressure on Joe Douglas. He needs to acquire a player. And again, we've talked about it. I've talked about it. Calvin Ridley, as of right now, we don't know what's going on with him. So a lot of fans are saying it's too much of a risk, and I do respect that take because we don't really know what's going on. If things are okay with him, and if he is mentally well, and if he's able to rebound from whatever was going on with him, that's a weapon that we could go after, acquire, and would be an absolute game changer for Zach Wilson, guys. He's a veteran wide receiver. He's not going to be coming into this team and needing to, establish himself. He's already an established wide receiver.
2, 3, Jets! Let's go! Let's go!
What is going on, Jets fans? Welcome into NYJ today. We got the first off-season stream, and I got my boys. I got Mike on my Mike on my left, and I got James on my right. I got to start with you boys. Mikey boy, how you feeling?
Yeah, it's great to see other teams succeed, as always. It's great. Although I did enjoy the Bills game. The Bills game was quite entertaining. The Dallas game was entertaining. So I'm still enjoying good football, man. We're not in it, nor did I think we would be. But hey, this is what makes it fun. This is the game.
Well said, actually. It is. We're watching now. We're on our couches watching other teams, but it is supposed to be good football, but man, have the playoffs been a letdown. James, how you doing, man?
Good. It's been a while since I've been on, so it's good to see you guys. And there's a lot going on in Jets land, even though the season ended week 18. We got a lot to discuss, and this team is headed in the right direction, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, coming off of a 4-13 loss, a 4-13 season. Nobody wants to see that kind of, win-loss record, but I am as well, optimistic. I think we all kind of feel that same vibe. But it's great to be here, and it's great to see you guys in the chat. We got a bunch of names I'll quickly read off. We got Braden in the chat, Chris Gazzola, new name. I don't recognize you. Welcome. He had a pretty funny joke. He says, anyone have their top 10 kickers debate ready? We got Matthias Simon as well in the chat. Straight 100s Jets is also here. Robbie Oak is here. So thank you guys for tuning in. We do have a lot going on. James, I think that's like the thing that I would like to emphasize is we actually have so many topics. I actually don't think we're going to get through all of them tonight. But that's not a bad thing necessarily. We have a lot to discuss. We do have one voicemail. We do have, I think, 4 or 5 mailbags that we will get to throughout the evening. I'm gonna try something a little different where we kind of slowly roll those out rather than doing them at the beginning. So it'll be a mixed bag. And guys, if you have a comment that you want read, throw it in the chat. Absolutely, I'll try my best to keep my eyes on that while these two guys are talking. And I don't think we need to hesitate. We can get right to the show. We're gonna get to the very first topic, and let me get rid of this. And let's add, I should say, this gem. And I am looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. This is a mailbag, and I'm going to kickstart the show with this. I do have a video coming out on Saturday, and it is addressing this topic. So according to Christopher Merkovich, I believe is how I pronounce it, he says, I definitely would trade Mekhi Becton. He says for a first-round pick or multiple picks. He says in a wide receiver if he could swing it. Basically, the gist of it is he's thinking, should we be considering trading Mekhi Becton? He's in that boat. And you guys know Chad from the channel. He also is skeptical and concerned about Mekhi Becton. I'm kind of on the other side of the fence there, but I would love to hear from you guys, and I would love to hear from the chat. What are your guys' thoughts on Mekhi Becton's future with the team? And basically that's it. I just want to hear your thoughts. Mike, I will let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable for fans to be dancing on both sides of that fence. There is some level of disappointment with not having the monster on the left side, especially our first year with a rookie quarterback that we are still excited for. I'm gonna beat to the punch. I'm still a believer in Zach Wilson. I know it's a separate topic, but I don't blame fans for feeling the way they do. I personally am not at that stage. I'm similar to you. To me, what this shows is we weren't deep enough with the right talent to handle this type of situation on the line. Now, I think in reflection, in the moment of the season, especially early on when he went down and Vera Tucker was somewhat hot and cold and things like that, I was pretty hard on the line. I actually think in reflection that line somewhat got its sea legs. I'm not saying they were outstanding. There were games where there were games where they were good and there was games where they're bad, and that is the honest truth. But for the shit stick that they were handed, that offensive line coach, and going all the way up to Joe Douglas when he brought in Moses, I think they were able to salvage something at least. But to me, this really goes back to I think Mekhi deserves more time. And I think it also shows that we need better talent and deeper talent on that line in the event he does go down again. So, there's some great prospects. I know, James is going to be going over one that's coming up in the draft. I think I've showed my cards in prior streams that I want an offensive lineman in the first round. I'll go ahead and share my, I think we need it, man. I think that if Mekhi goes down, it'd be great to have some more talent on that line and not necessarily rely on free agency or Greg Van Roten to pull us through or something like that. So I think he needs more time. I think he's earned it, and I just think we need to be deeper with better talent just to back up if that is the case.
You're off and running. Nice job. I want to hear from you, James. Thoughts on Mekhi Becton, his future with the team, and just your overall expectations for him moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trade Mekhi Becton. I mean, everybody does have a price, of course, but I wouldn't trade him. Listen, it was unfortunate, and Mike is right that it's completely reasonable to be on either side of the fence because of what happened, right? It's the week 1 injury. He got rolled on. I think that's a really important piece of the puzzle. Because it happens, but it's also not something where it was an injury that he could have, maybe prevented in some form or fashion. It's just kind of what happens. Offensive linemen, they get tangled up. So it's an unfortunate situation. I think where it became the disappointment in most people's eyes is the fact that we were initially told it was 6 to 8 weeks.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it wound up being 17 weeks. Right. So it was what happened with Mekhi Becton over that period of time where he couldn't have at least come back in 11 or 12 weeks or 10 weeks.
Yep.
It was a full year injury, season injury where it took away his entire season. And so I think it's fair to question, is he out of shape? Right. Because when you're that big, people are going to question whether or not you're staying in shape. Are you eating healthy? Is your endurance where it needs to be to play a sport like this at, a 350 pound, weight where it's just not a normal human weight. People are not walking around at that size, especially when they're, as athletic as he can be. So I think Mekhi Becton is very much in the plans. I think he comes back. He's our starting left tackle next year. Foreseen some kind of circumstance again, or he just maybe does not come back in the shape that he needs to be in. I did see he got a nutritionist. My other point about it too is you can't play like both sides of the fence. Like I get it. It's a situation where we saw Mekhi Becton his rookie year, and he looked like he was going to be a perennial All-Pro type of player. I mean, ESPN came out with an article before this season. They had him ranked as the sixth best left tackle in the entire league before, and he was only going into his sophomore season. So you can't really play both sides of the fence and say, hey, listen, we think Mekhi Becton's out of shape. He's injury prone, but we're going to trade him and we're going to get a whole bunch of picks from a team. So the trade value, if you want to go that route, I think has to be realistic with expectations if you think he's on the end where he may be an injury prone player who may not live up to those expectations. And anything less than a package of very valuable picks, you can't trade a player like him.
Yeah, I'm going to withhold comment because I do have the video coming out. Not that my take is anything special or anything like that, but I will withhold comment. But the short and skinny of it is I would not trade him. We do have a lot of comments in the chat right now. I'm going to get to a couple of them. Rick Fisher says I would give Becton at least one more year. Or he says one more year. Vern says I'm not trading big ticket. Maybe next season. Matthias Simon says Becton's going to come into camp and he's going to compete for that left tackle spot. That's something that we didn't mention. George Fant, one of the best pass protecting offensive linemen, period, in the NFL last year. He was very, very, very good pass protecting for Zach Wilson. Perhaps that's a scenario where the Jets say, okay, we're going to roll with whoever's the better of the two at the left tackle spot. So good comment there. Let's see. Robbie Oaks says Becton, big grades in year one, misses the entire year two from the injury, and we're looking to bail. No thanks. And that's kind of important to note. Like, he was very good his rookie season. Becton was not playing around. Did he have some ups and downs during his rookie year? Yeah, he had a couple of games where he got beat. The one that always comes to my mind is the game against the Raiders where Cleveland Farrell, a first-round bust, got the best of him. But Becton was really good that rookie season, so I'm not really interested in it. It's like you said, James. Unless we're getting some sort of big package deal with multiple picks, I'm not really interested. And I think we're better off having him on the team and seeing what happens than trading him away. I'm not saying we need to keep all of our players, of course not, because you're going to move on from some of your guys, but I would like to try to keep some of our young talent and try to develop them. Tommy R., you said there's so much more to this than they are saying. Tell us what you're alluding to, and I'll try to put it in the stream. It looks like Tommy R. says NFL teams have access to the best ortho surgeons in the area or in their area. The Jets doc didn't even recommend the surgery. I think that they, I don't know. I thought that they did decide on surgery in the end. Whether or not they recommend it or not, I think that's kind of up to the player at that point, to decide surgery or no surgery. And again, I don't really know if it's about that. It's really about how did he handle himself after the surgery. And as James talked about, that 4 to 8 week window that we heard, I even heard 4 to 6 weeks early on as well. So, he didn't do what he needed to do. We're not completely defending Mekhi Becton by saying we wouldn't trade him. There are definitely some things he needs to work on. He needs to be better at. But I'm just not ready. I'm not ready to part with him. He's got a ton of talent. And again, rewatch some of his tape his rookie year, man. And I think you would recognize and remember there was a lot of promise coming out of that rookie season. So we'll leave it at that, and we will move on. We've got another topic here. It's a little bit more wide open, which is kind of nice. So 2021 season grades. And so this is where we're going to very quickly just kind of grade. And I have a couple of categories. We're going to grade the coaching staff. We're going to grade the offense, the defense, and the special teams. And we'll let James go first on this one. You can explain a little bit of it if you want. You don't have to go too crazy in detail or anything, though.
Do you want me to run through each grade?
Yeah, you can. Coaching staff, offense, defense, special teams.
Okay. So coaching staff, I gave a C+. I just thought young staff, first-time head coach, first-time offensive coordinator. They did some good things in terms of adjustments. I liked Salah's ability to go for it on fourth down when it seemed appropriate. I thought that was a big time, in-game kind of awareness aspect that he had to him. But overall, I give him a C plus. Just because of some of the blowouts that we had earlier on in the year. There were a lot of games that were uncompetitive. So they got a lot better as the year went on. But yeah, C plus for me for the coaching staff. I also gave a C plus to the offense.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I feel like I was maybe harder on the coaching staff than the offense, but I just thought overall, Corey Davis didn't have the year that we expected him to have, but I don't think that's going to be the norm for him. I think it was an off year, but you really throw in the young talent, the Elijah Moore, Elijah Vera-Tucker, Michael Carter, hopefully Braxton Berrios is back. And then the offensive lines improved significantly. They ended up 13th in the NFL in yards per rush at 4.1. And the Cleveland Browns led that category at 5. The Jets were at 4.4, and the Browns were at 5.1, who led the NFL. So really great, and really great there for the offensive line improvement, despite the fact that we missed Mekhi Becton over the year, and we dealt with Greg Van Roten for most of it. But they really kind of came along, which is great. And Zach got better and calmed down, which is the most important thing of all. So C plus for the offense. Defense, I gave a C minus. I was very close to going a little bit below that. It's not to discount the effort that the guys put in themselves, but I just think the group as a whole is lacking in elite level talent and also some depth. I think there are major changes that need to come to this defense for next year for this team to be successful. So C minus, and really honestly, I think that was generous, but I wanted to show the effort that some of these younger guys really put in. And then special teams, I gave a B. I thought the return game in both the punt and the kickoff return, obviously Braxton Berrios had an All-Pro year, so that's got to give some leeway for a significant grade. It would have been higher, except the field goal kicking at the start of the year just was not good enough. It was terrible, and I think we have something with Braden Mann, but I would just like to see him be more consistent, throughout the course of the season. So B for that group. If we can improve the field goal kicking, I think that significantly gets a higher grade for next year.
Very well done. Your grades are all within a plus or minus of mine, and I'll share mine after Mikey goes. Real quick, just got a couple of comments I wanted to read off real fast. Let's see. So Grant Rudy says, is it safe to say we don't have to see that rotten guard play in a Jets uniform ever again? We actually save money by cutting him. And I believe he's under contract this upcoming season. I could be wrong on that one, but I think if we cut him, we save like $1 million or something like that. I don't see how in the world they keep this guy. He's got to go, right? Like, he has to.
Yeah, get him out of here.
Enough is enough. Like, for real, like, enough is enough. Go find somebody else. Like, we can do equally as bad with somebody else being in the offensive line. Chris Gazzola, again, another name I haven't recognized. It's great to have you. He's throwing a bunch of good comments in here. He says, Ulbrich is definitely going to catch crap, even though his side of the ball was full of practice squad players. I'd like to see how we do without half of our team on IR. A lot of inexperience on defense. A ton. Yeah. And the talent level was not good enough. And James, you said it, and Mike, I'm going to pass it to you in just a second. I think there are some people out there that don't think that we're going to make big changes on defense. Like, they are still insistent on focusing, and I'm just throwing a percentage out there, like 80% of our investments in the offseason towards the offense. And I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, all these guys, I don't think they're going to want to do that. Of course, the quarterback is the most important. We're not suggesting that. But the defense is devoid of a lot of things we need on defense to be successful. So to put it short, Chris Gazzola, I think we all agree with you. I certainly do. So thanks for throwing that comment in the chat. Okay, Mike, you're up. Coaching staff, offense, defense, special teams.
Yeah, I'm not too far off of James, which means I shouldn't be too far off of you. I'm going to go ahead and start with the one that I'll probably get roasted. I will get roasted the most for. I'm going to start with coaching. I gave D+ on coaching. I was at times disappointed in the coaching. This is from, hey, you could put it whatever sound effect you want, baby. You're not getting me out of a D+. You're not getting me out of D+. I don't know. Some of the offensive play calling still eludes me to this day, because I was going back looking through which moment I was most enjoyed about the 2021 season, and some of the play calling just eludes me. The 3 receivers running the same route, I think to me would be an image I keep screenshotted on my laptop. So there's that. Defensive side, a mess at times, blown coverages. Now, how much of that is play calling versus how much of that is player? Just airhead moments that I don't know, but I'm just going based on, are you prepared to play? That's what it really comes down to. The number of injuries, coaching is more than just the offensive coordinators and the head coach. You got to take into account, conditioners, the training, because those guys hire the training staff, the athletic conditioners, the support staff, and all that contributes towards, is the team ready to play on Sunday, right? So to me, I think there's a lot of room for improvement. I'm not headhunting. I want to say that when I say it's a D+. I'm not headhunting.
D. You're saying D+. I thought you said B. I thought you said B+.
D is in dog.
Oh my God, I hate your grade. I hate your grade even more than I did when I thought it was a B+.
That's fine, man. That's fine. I would say I think there's a lot of room for improvement. A lot of room for improvement. Offense, I'm at a C, not a C, not a C minus, not a C plus. I'm at a C. I think the offense got some of its sea legs as it went through the season, particularly Zach. I mean, 2,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, 11 interceptions compared to, of course, I'm baselining him on Trevor. So you're talking, what was that, Trevor? Trevor was 3,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. I would much prefer Zach's stats, even though it's less yardage, just because it just shows to me a little bit more composure, even though Zach took a lot more BS in the media than what Trevor did. But Trevor's going to hide behind the Urban Meyer situation. So,
what was your grade? What was your grade for the offense?
C, just a C.
Okay.
Just
that's
regular
cool.
C.
I don't hate that as much.
And then especially when Keelan Cole and Crowder got worked back into the mix again, I really feel like that offense started to pick up. And then the running game, to James's point, when the offensive line got rotten out of the way, we started to really find some production there. On the defense side, I have C minus. I think that's the same grade you gave, James. I know you were tempted to go into the D plus. I'm at a C minus there. I mean, there's too many games. If you look at the schedule, we got blown out so many times. I mean, John and I went to the Denver game. That was a shutout. We went to.
I hated that. I hated that game. Hated it. Loved the trip. I flippin' hated that game. Go ahead.
We had I think we had 250 bombs dropped on us. It's just and there were some highlights there. I think Bryce Hall. I love what I saw with Bryce Hall this season, but it's in its totality. The defense is lacking, and when we get to the pick side, one of the other things I want to do with those 2 first-round picks is go after a high-end defensive player. But we'll get to that later. The secondary struggle, but we knew that was going to be the case. I don't, most of my comments are on the fact that Mosley had to handle the linebacking crew. I felt like on his own. I'll just say that at times the other linebackers seemed invisible. And then on the defensive line, at times it was just too inconsistent. Obviously Carl Lawson, not being there is a big blow, but there's room for improvement on that line, and obviously Shaq Lawson being let go is a perfect sign of that. And then special teams, I'm at a B. I'm not going to hide it. Hardy's my man. I love the energy that special team brings. Braxton Berrios, I think, was great to watch. He's a really fun player. He's going into free agency, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But it's not like the special teams did wonders when you compare them to the rest of the league. But when you compare them to the rest of the team, I feel like the special teams had some energy there throughout the entire season, through the thick, through the good, through the bad. They were always there, ready to play. Now, on the kicking side, I do agree with James. I didn't think about that. I was just thinking about just all the guys on the field. But I'm going to keep it at a B. I still think they're at a B there. So that's where I'm at.
Very well done. I'm going to go pretty quick here. I gave the coaching staff a B minus. I like the job that Saleh did. James talked about the aggressiveness on fourth down. We don't have to be as aggressive as the coach in LA, the Chargers coach, who, he's catching a lot of flack for that right now, or was and is going to probably still catch it. He's aggressive, but I think he's smart. It's like a really good balance. And I think that you saw development with the players. All of you guys have talked about it. We didn't necessarily see every draft pick, this season flourish and blossom, but there was a lot of things to look at and say, wow, this coaching staff really helped them to come along. And Jason Pinnock has to be one of those guys converting from a cornerback to a safety mid-season. I thought that was very impressive what they did. The two cornerbacks that we got late in the draft, Brandon Echols, Michael Carter, these are guys that can have a role on this defense for, the next couple of seasons at least. You can't say enough good things about what Joe Douglas did and the job that the coaching staff did in getting these young players on the field quickly and not wasting a lot of time, because we knew this was going to be a little bit of a uphill battle. So getting those guys on the field quicker, I think, is a credit to our coaching staff, and that's kind of why I give them the B minus. Offense, I actually gave them a B. I'm looking back to years gone by and how low we've ranked in the offensive rankings, and we're not there yet. Obviously, like the production's still not quite there yet. But we moved in the right direction, and the play calling, there were some definite screw ups on offensive play calling, defensive play calling, and I'll get to that. But the creativity and the seeing the scheme on game day was nice, and I think it's a step in the right direction. So I give a lot of credit to Mike LaFleur. So I give the offense a B. Moving forward, they're going to have to earn that grade a little bit more, because they do now have a year together. And moving forward, what do you want? Jeez.
I just want to give perspective on one thing, which is I took into account the lack of transparency, particularly on the Mims situation, and also in terms of the press conferences. I just want to make sure, did you take that into account, or am I taking in
press conferences? More? I could care less about the press conferences, Mike.
Oh, that counts, man.
No, it doesn't matter. I don't really care. You're right. There's something to say with how they handle the media, but I don't really care too much about the press conferences. But I thought overall they handled it fine. The New York media, I think if that's maybe what you're getting at a little bit.
I just think that there was topics in multiple streams that we did where we felt like we didn't know what the hell was going on with certain players, with certain game plan. I mean, Saleh had to go back and say, you know what, our game planning isn't working. I'm going to take this long break over the bye week and really figure out what the hell is going on with our strategies. So I took all that into account. I didn't just take into account just final outcome in terms of stats on the field, and not to say you guys are either. I just wanted to point those out because that to me is still a sour point in my head. Is I still feel like he kind of kept us, the community, at an arm's distance in regards to multiple situations, which I don't know. I think still to this day, I don't think I've ever heard Saleh say, yeah, it sucks the way we performed on the field. I don't think he's ever said that.
Okay. You're definitely a little bit more critical, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's definitely room for improvement. I think the biggest thing here is they the talent's not there yet. They're still obviously building. It would be like criticizing a house that only had 2 walls for not being able to withstand like the weather. Like I feel like they're still in the process of building here, and without having all 4 walls, up off the ground, you can't really criticize the house too much. So, real quick before I finish my grades, I do want to thank Rick Fisher for the super chat. Rick Fisher, you didn't put a comment on there, man. Throw me a comment, and I will read the next one that you put in there. I will pay attention until you submit it. Okay, offense I gave a B. Offense I gave a B. The defense I am going to go ahead and I'm going to be a little bit meaner. Going to give the defense a D+. Eventually they're going to have to stop the run. Eventually they're going to have to get after the quarterback. And my God, I talked, and you guys are probably going to get sick of it, and that's okay. I am so sick of not hitting quarterbacks that I feel sick to my stomach watching the defense. Like that's how I feel watching our defense. I couldn't tell you and explain to you how much it bothers me that we do not let the quarterback feel us down to down. And again, I feel like philosophically that's what Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich, they want that. I think, I don't know that for certain, but I feel like that is what they want the most. They want our defense to get after the quarterback. And so we're not there yet. The players are not, they're not in place. So I'm not gonna slam everybody here, but I do think Ulbrich needs to do a better job. I'm one of those people that came to his defense, and I kind of talked about the lack of talent. The jury will be out next season if Ulbrich doesn't get whoever we add to the defense to perform and to perform at a better level than what we've been seeing. He could be out after next season. I never thought he would get fired this season, but if we don't see that improvement going in, into the offseason the following year, I think he's going to probably get fired. Last one is special teams. I gave it a B-. Same reasons as you, James. I thought the punting needed to be way more consistent. The kicking game, Amendola, I never really was a big fan of his. Once we got Sergio in there, not Sergio. Is it Sergio? No, Pinheiro. Sorry.
No, Eddie. Yeah.
Eddie, good Lord. I apologize. Eddie Pinheiro. I don't know why the hell I said Sergio. Eddie Pinheiro. I was actually kind of high on him when we got him, and I did a little bit of research on him. In his entire career, he's only played in 3 games where he's missed a field goal. So the other games, he was perfect. And so I think with him, it's more or less he just needs to continue to work on. And I don't know what you guys thought about this. Like his kicks, they feel like they aren't getting high enough. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they seem like they have that low trajectory, and it kind of freaks me out a little bit. But otherwise, very accurate, I thought. Not necessarily saying he needs to be able to kick it from 58 yards. I just want to see a little bit more height on those kicks because the ball's hitting like in the middle of the uprights, and it's not really that long of a kick. So
it's gonna get blocked.
That's what I'm thinking. Not necessarily a huge concern, but definitely something he needs to work on in my mind. And I'm not an expert on special teams, so that could be completely wrong. Kick returning, you can't say enough good things about Braxton Berrios. I've already said it. They need to bring him back just based on special teams alone. We know that the offensive part, that's a cherry on top. He's very versatile, can make a lot of plays. I think LaFleur really likes him too, and I think that's why they're going to bring him back. But special teams alone, he's worth bringing back. And then, like Mike talked about as well, our boy, Mr. Hardy, a good signing. And I think that actually he'll probably have a better year next year. I thought there were some times where he made a couple of mistakes. Nothing huge, but I think he'll have a better year next year. And he was great. He brings so much energy. So those are our grades. Very nicely done, everybody. Let me see. Oh, Rick Fisher, I just realized the comment that you put in there was a compliment, not a question. It's very, very kind of you, Rick Fisher. I really appreciate that. Means quite a bit. Straight 100, thank you very, very much. Do appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us. This is a lot of fun. I've said that a million times. We enjoy doing this. Talking Jets football is always the best. So All right, let's go to our next topic. This one's pretty light, and then we'll get into some more of the heavy lifting for the off season. If you guys wouldn't mind, go ahead and hit the like button. Would greatly appreciate that. If you guys are not following James on Twitter, BSB_breakdowns, and you can
Correct.
follow. Yep, and you can follow me on Twitter as well. I am constantly tweeting. I probably need to chill out on the Twitter, to be honest with you. I spend too much time on the twit. But anyways, greatly appreciate you guys coming by. The next topic, again, as I said, kind of light, and it's favorite moment of the season. So, James, you went first last time? Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, it could be a play, it could be a game, it could be a moment, whatever you want to do. What was your favorite moment from the 2021 season?
It's kind of in both. It's the Titans game week 4, and specifically the deep pass to Corey Davis. I just think that to me, it sent shivers down my spine in terms of waiting for Zach Wilson to show us the gun that he has, and for him to do it somewhat on the run. And to Corey Davis, who I gave a lot of shit to when we signed him. That particular play and that whole game, to me, is still the highlight, because at week 4, I just thought, wow. I was like, and I'm not going to call out particular people, but around that time when we were streaming, people thought that we still had playoff hopes. So that just after that game, Jet fans were riding so high that optimism was at its peak. And of course, the season didn't pan out the way we thought after week 4. But still, that game has a special place for me as far as the season goes.
I muted myself because I was typing. Sorry, very well said. You stole mine. I'll give a couple more details though. James, what was your favorite moment of the season?
So
it ended?
I got the Titans win.
Oh too. Wow! Okay, wow.
Really weird.
Yeah. I have the
so I'll try
score.
Yeah, I'll try to make some other points there, but listen, it was a game after, right? So Mike mentioned it was week 4, but we didn't score a touchdown the 2 weeks before that. We went from Carolina to the New England disaster to the Denver disaster to week 4 against the Titans, and what happened was just kind of ridiculous, going from one end of the spectrum to the other like that. And listen, the Titans are a team that wound up. They had Derrick Henry at this point in time, and they wound up as the number 1 seed in the AFC. And for that to be your coach's first win, your quarterback's first win, obviously your offensive coordinator got it together a little bit. We talked about wanting to get after the quarterback a little bit more and having the quarterback feel the defense. I mean, Ryan Tannehill played a good game if you're judging by the box score. He wound up getting hot a little bit towards the end, but we sacked him 7 times, and we were blitzing him, and we were getting pressure there. So that was a lot of fun. Zach nearly threw for 300 yards. Not only the Corey Davis throw, but the one to Keelan Cole in the overtime to get us in position for the field goal might have been his best throw of the game. It just doesn't get the notoriety because it wasn't the point touchdown, the touchdown, all of that. And I kind of liked, that was kind of the Quincy Williams game a little bit too. He hit Derrick Henry a couple times where I think it made us all say, okay, we might have a little bit of a diamond in the rough that can really contribute to this team. And he wound up getting a little bit better as the year went on. But I go back to that moment that the Titans missed that field goal in overtime, and it was just electric. Like I was running around my house, Twitter blew up. So definitely the feeling of that first win in this new era has to be that number 1 spot.
Yeah, there really wasn't a lot missing from that Titans game. The only thing I can really think off the top of my head, Elijah Moore, I don't think he played. So that was like one of the elements that was kind of missing. A couple of people mentioned the Elijah Moore touchdown against the Dolphins. That was a really sweet moment.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, very good moment. So yeah, that's pretty funny. We all picked the same damn game and didn't even pick a moment necessarily. We all just picked a game. Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll change it a little bit. Zach Wilson, almost 300 yards, like 3 yards short of a 300-yard passing game, was really good. The only downside in that game for him was he had just missed a couple of really easy throws. Like he could have ended the game in regulation to Ryan Griffin, I think, in the flat. It was like right there. It was wide open for him. A walk-in touchdown. That would have been pretty cool to see, a walk-off touchdown to end the game. And then the defense. No, I don't think anybody mentioned that. I think we had like 7 sacks in that game or something like that. Quincy Williams was going berserk in that game. C.J. Mosley had a sack.
We stopped Derrick Henry.
We did not. We did not stop Derrick.
Oh,
Henry.
that's right. Yeah, he picked up in the second half. That's right. I'm sorry.
He was crushing us. To be fair, if they
no shame in that.
Yeah, no, not at all. He's just too good. He's ridiculous. Jonathan Franklin Myers got a sack. Bryce Hall had a half sack. Bryce Huff had a sack and a half. So just seeing the defense do what it didn't do all season long, which is my favorite thing, which is to hit the quarterback. I love seeing that. And again, seeing Ryan Tannehill a little bit uncomfortable as well was one of my favorites. So that's my favorite moment from the season. I don't think it's any question. We've got, the chat is blowing up with draft talk. They all are very eager for you. They're very eager to not talk about this past season. So why don't we do that? I'll skip the next topic and we can get to your thing, James. So we'll come back to the Zach Wilson topic and we will pick up after your breakdowns, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
All right, coolness. All right, so let me change scenes here and let me pause it. Oh, great, I'm all by myself. That's nice. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and fool around with this. I don't want me twice. Let's see, camera options. Yeah, that's it. We'll get James on here. We'll get you too, Mike. All right, James.
I'll be the voice behind the curtain.
Yeah. I know you'd like that. Too much, actually. You would like that. All right, so James, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to continue setting up these cameras. Why don't you set the table for us?
Cool. All right, so we got Nakobe Dean, Evan Neal, and this first play here I used as an introduction because both players made, for lack of a better term, ridiculously elite plays here. So it kind of worked where obviously we all know Alabama played Georgia in the national championship. It did not go the way it was supposed to. I don't know if there's any Georgia fans out there, but it did not go the way it was supposed to. No, Georgia. Congratulations to Georgia. This defense is something else. And there are, we're looking at Nakobe Dean here, but there are a ton of elite level athletes on this defense that we will see on Sunday. So here, Alabama is just in a trips look, right? So a trips look to the boundary, and they're going to actually motion that tight end who's the number 3. They're going to motion him to the end of the line of scrimmage, which basically just creates a tray look. Tray, I just use as a term different from trips. When there's a tight end attached at the end of the line of scrimmage, I call it a tray look. So they motion to that tray look. And what Georgia's defensive line is going to do, they're going to shift. So that causes the tight end to come in. And at the end of the line of scrimmage, that linebacker at the end, that's Quay Walker, which is a name we're going to hear kind of rise up draft boards as this year goes along. And obviously, Evan Neal is playing left tackle. So Alabama's got Brian Robinson at the running back spot opposite of Bryce Young. He's a big back. He's 6'4", 6'3", about 225 or so. Big, strong, physical back. And they're going to run an outside zone to the boundary. So now if it's kind of hard, I guess, since we're focusing on 2 players, but we have Nakobe Dean as that middle linebacker right over the center and the left guard. And when they go outside zone here, you're going to see Nakobe Dean has a very good sense of understanding his keys, right? So when I say keys, run pass, right? So if you see the lineman run blocking as a linebacker, your key is telling you that a run is coming. Now that can get murky with RPOs and all that fun stuff nowadays where they try to trick you. But he reads run, and when he reads run, he glances at Brian Robinson, and he's going to close the hole. The fun part about this play is Evan Neal opens up the Red Sea for Brian Robinson. And you think it's perfectly set up, John. If you want to run it, you can run it here because we'll end up looking at it on the back end. I mean, Evan Neal opens up the Red Sea, and Nakobe Dean just completely shuts down the entire play. Evan Neal has his best trait, despite his size, he has elite hands. His hands, when he gets his hands on you, you're not really going to go anywhere. And I'll preface it with both players have downside. They're not, they do have the negatives to them, but we're here to kind of point out what they do so well. And I'll talk about certain things that they need to work on when I'm looking at the film. But that play there, Evan Neal gets the pancake. He's got his hands on Quay Walker. He opens up the hole in the outside zone, and you think this is going to be a big play because Alabama's got this blocked the way they need to have it blocked. And it turns into Nakobe Dean reading it and meeting Brian Robinson in the hole, and he shuts down this run play before it can get going. It's about a 3 or 4 yard gain when realistically this thing could have went for a whole lot more. And you'll see how explosive Evan Neal is out of his stance in the run block, which is also obviously one of his better traits. Is he's 6'7", 350, but he's one of the more athletic guys in the room. And that's what makes him such an elite prospect, probably going to go top 3. But you can see here how he drives, and that hole is open. But Nakobe Dean, he shuts it down. He shuts it down in a hot second.
Yeah, I was going to watch and see how many yards he pushes him out. It looks like at least 3 to 4 yards to the left side there. I mean, he's moving him. People mover is what we call that.
Yeah, he's a people mover for sure. He does have some issues with his footwork in pass protection here and there. And this is kind of something I've talked about with other draft evaluators as well, who've kind of noticed here and there. It's, listen, when you're watching a guy like Evan Neal, sometimes it's just boring because he just doesn't allow guys in. But the occasional speed rusher off the edge will give him a problem if his feet aren't consistent. And when he has that problem, so there is some issue there that's worth pointing out to the guy that's like, hey, why should I take Evan Neal at number 4 when we have Becton? We can keep Fant under contract. We could just bring back Morgan Moses. And so, part of that is that edge rusher can sometimes give him trouble. But we'll get to that part. This is Nakobe Dean. When you're looking at taking a linebacker in the first round, you have to find that elite trait, right? Because the NFL is different now than it used to be. You need to be a sideline-to-sideline linebacker. He is on the smaller side. Which kind of gives people a little bit of a hesitancy. I saw today on Twitter, he may not even be 6 foot. And so we'll give him 6 foot, 225. So he is on the smaller end. And his wingspan isn't maybe what you want it to be, which can have its negatives in pass coverage. But when you're talking about a rangy athlete, and that's not to say he's a bad athlete. He's an elite level athlete. There's just certain parameters that guys want in the draft world if you're going to take a guy so high. And, some of those things may cause some draft evaluators to drop him down later in that first round. And I think those are some of the things. But here, so all George is doing is they're just playing a cover 2 man. So they have 2 high safeties. Everyone underneath is playing man coverage. They're just rushing 4. And this is something that the Jets do. They do often, maybe not with the 2 high safeties all the time, but they play a lot of man coverage on 3rd down. And so you as a linebacker, if you're going to be on that field as a linebacker, you got to be able to cover the running back, the tight end. And one of the things that we know from the Jets defense is there were guys that lacked instinct. There were guys that lacked the ability to diagnose the play and wind up making, either a negative play or, the famous tweet of every Sunday is, why can't the Jets stop a screen pass? And part of that is not being able to understand, not being aware, not seeing your run, your pass keys, and you're late to the screen. And if the offensive line is set up, they got big bodies on defensive backs, and if your linebackers are late, you're in trouble. And that's what happened to the Jets very often this year. And so here you can see number 2 to the boundary. So it's just 5 wide, empty look for Michigan. So they have their running back right underneath the 30-yard line there, and he's going to motion. That's what we call an orbit motion. So he's going around the entire field, and the idea is to get him the ball in a swing screen pass type of situation, and you have the trip side who is going to block the players that are in man coverage against them. And so Nakobe Dean is tasked with defending that running back. He's got a man-to-man. A term that a lot of colleges use and maybe NFL teams is MEG, which means man everywhere he goes. If he goes into the stands and he grabs a drink, you're behind him ready to pay for it. And so here, that's what Nakobe Dean has. And I'll let you run the play because it's just a ridiculous play for him to run this running back down, get the screen pass, and ultimately have the good angle to make the tackle. And that's a loss of about 2 yards on that play. So he is running sideline to sideline with a running back, by the way, who was phenomenal in college football this year. And he takes the angle. If Nakobe Dean does not make this play, it's one-on-one with the safety. This is at least a gain of 15. So you look at those plays where you say, okay, this player as an individual, we get it. Georgia's defense was phenomenal this year. Whether that brings some guys' draft stock, back, it's kind of that argument of, well, you're playing with all the 5-star recruits, everything's going to be nice and dandy. It's not going to be that way if you're a top pick going to a developmental team. But you look at plays like this where Nakobe Dean is one-on-one with this running back, where he's running opposite numbers to the to the other sideline, and he's making a play for a loss that could have resulted in a potentially a 10-yard gain. But if this running back makes a play on the safety, you may be talking about a 40-yard gain, maybe more, depending on the speed. The speed of Georgia's defense is it's pretty intense. So this was probably the most impressive play by Nakobe Dean that I've watched. At least I'll admit I haven't watched every snap. It's nearly impossible to do that for all these guys. But Michigan is a game that I looked at, and here he just makes kind of when you look at it that way, he's kind of like a blur across the screen, which you don't get very often when you're talking about a linebacker. But he's a little bit of, despite his size, he's a little bit of that new age linebacker that needs to be able to run sideline to sideline and needs to be able to guard these running backs and these tight ends that are playing in the NFL nowadays.
Hey, James, real quick.
Yep.
Given his size, I would be curious what you would feel his rating for coverage would be, especially against a big tight end, and whether that size is going to be a problem.
Yeah, great job, because that was in the comments. Go for it.
Yeah. So it may cause him a little bit of an issue. So 2 different kind of situations there, right? It's either, is he going to be man coverage on that tight end to where he's going to have to cover him in a red zone type of situation? I don't think you would put him in that type of situation, that type of scenario. You would have to, listen, if they have X amount of wide receivers out there, and if the tight end's a guy like, let's just say, for instance, our own division, we have a guy, Mike Gesicki, who might as well just be a wide receiver.
Exactly.
But they line him up at tight end. He's a mismatch problem. He's a huge issue to guard. A guy like Nakobe Dean, you'd probably want to try to adjust and not have his level of, height, wingspan, trying to guard a guy man-to-man like that. But the good thing about Nakobe Dean, his instincts in zone coverage, right? So when he's playing the zone, he drops deep enough to get in between the zone because he has the ability, he has the speed to then collapse on the short pass, the closing speed he has. So those bigger tight ends, quite honestly, you're not going to draft him to play in those type of situations. You'd have to have either that nickel come in, drop down that safety, And there was a comment before, but Nakobe Dean's a very good blitzer. He's
Yeah.
able to blitz and create a pass rush. So if you have those kind of situations, if you can match up a man-to-man with a bigger safety, I'm sure we'll talk about Kyle Hamilton at some point, but if you could bring a guy like that into the mix, and you're probably not going to have Nakobe Dean and Kyle Hamilton on the same team, but a Kyle Hamilton build of a bigger safety that can guard those tight ends. If you have that smaller linebacker, you'll probably refrain from putting him in that situation.
There you go. All right, good stuff for sure. All right, let's move forward to this next one.
Yeah, so and this is kind of in a similar light here. So this is the national championship game. And so Nakobe Dean is the strong side linebacker on this, but I'll call him the Sam because we have that motioning tight end who is going to motion out to the field, but he's kind of going to give a little bit of a hesitant look, and it is man coverage here by Georgia. But what Alabama is going to do is they're going to try to fool that defense, right? So we're talking about instincts again. It's my number one thing when I'm looking at defenders. Obviously, they have to have the elite traits, but the brain has to be there. And it's worth noting that, listen, Nakobe Dean's not just your normal, your normal athlete. He's a 4.0 mechanical engineering student who graduated in 3 years. So he's got a set of brains on him, and it translates to the football field. So here, what Alabama is going to do is they're going to try to block down, right? The line is going to block down to the left. They're going to go play action, but it's going to be a wide receiver screen to the number 2 right outside the hash on the field. And that's Ja'Cory Brooks, who famously scored the touchdown against Auburn, the deep ball to bring that game into overtime. So he's a little bit of an Alabama hero here. But you can see Nakobe Dean, he flows with the tight end, but he's not fully convinced yet. He kind of stays in the box. So if you look, right, the ball's been snapped, and Nakobe Dean is, let's just say he's midway in between the hashes, right? And the wide receiver that's going to get the ball is outside the hashes right before the numbers. And if you run it just a little bit more here, by the time the ball is out, Nakobe Dean is just about inside the hash. And he's able to, again, use his speed, his range. Now he's going to run down Ja'Cory Brooks here because if you look at it, it's blocked well by Alabama. The safety is, again, would be it. And quick little tidbit here. If you look at the field side safety, that free safety or maybe a strong safety at the top there, watch how late he is to react to the screen pass. Screen pass there, he's coming down on the screen when the wide receiver catches the ball, which is just too late. And there's Nakobe Dean once again to kind of clean up the range. And right, it's a great point. His reaction time, it's his reaction, but it's everything that comes before that. It's his processing that allows him to say, okay, I know where I need to be. He's the leader of that defense. He gets them set, and then he's ultimately able to make those rangy plays where he needs to, run sideline to sideline. And he's a sure tackler. That's the other thing. He did miss a couple tackles in this national championship game. He overran a couple plays on a tight end where he just overran it and they were able to get the first down. But ultimately, the bigger picture of his career is he's a sure tackler that he's going to pack a punch when he gets there. And so rangy athlete with elite level skills to get to where he needs to be in the time that he needs to get there. And so here we're going to shift back to the run game. So this was the SEC championship against Alabama, and you could see I'm kind of moving towards making sure the opponent is an elite opponent because all last season, everything I got on Zach Wilson was he's playing scrubs, and it was very frustrating for me. So I had a hard time coping with that. So I was like, you know what, when we get to these elite level prospects, let's see them against guys who are going to be playing on Sundays. And Nakobe Dean here is the Mike. He's that middle linebacker right in the middle of the screen. And so what Alabama is going to do is they're going to run they're going to run essentially just a counter or a trap. They're going to pull the tight end, and they're going to pull the right guard. And so they're going to pull the right guard and the tight end. The right guard's job is to kick out that edge defender, and the tight end's job is to find the linebacker, block him, and open up the lane for the running back. That is not going to happen for him here. And Nakobe Dean is going to blow up that run play right here. And you can see it probably a little bit better from I have that next angle in the back. But what's important here in the run game, and I think we've seen it from the Jets again, right? Everything when we're talking about these guys, perspective of kind of what we saw with the Jets. Nakobe Dean is aggressive in the run game. He is not going to sit there and wait for you to block him.
This is a great comment. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you. This is important. No. This is very important, though. Right.
So, and you're absolutely right. He's not going to sit there. Again, it's reading your keys. When he sees that pulling tight end, that pulling guard, usually when someone's pulling, someone's coming over, someone's meeting them somewhere behind, right? Someone is coming in that hole that they're trying to open. And so what Nakobe Dean does is he beats the tight end to the spot. When he beats the tight end to the spot, it does not give the tight end the ability to get through the hole and sit there and have to wait for Nakobe Dean to come to him. Nakobe Dean is going to come inside of that tight end and blow up the run play. And as soon as he sees it, he is downhill immediately. And that's really important, I think, for all of us when we're evaluating these linebackers of who can we add to this linebacker room that's going to, make those plays in the screen game, those reaction plays that we saw, but also, hey, when there's a run play, someone's going to meet them in the hole and deliver a hit if the D line gets pushed back. Just run support. Nakobe Dean is one of the first guys through the gap in the run game at all times. There is an issue if there is a situation where an offensive lineman gets to the second level on him. Maybe, listen, you're not going to do everything 100% of the time. So when those situations happen where he can't attack the gap, where he may be late in reacting and that offensive lineman gets to the second level, because of his size, he can have issues getting off of that block. Yeah. So it is something noteworthy. And here, the last one.
I want to real quick, I just want to say something because you talked about him attacking once he recognizes he's going downhill. And I don't know after what game it was. I think it was a Monday morning press conference with Saleh. And he talked about that exact thing as being a huge issue for the run defense having so many issues, is that the guys that were playing, linebacker at the time were not reacting. They were thinking too much and basically waiting. And it was too late at that point. When they were ready to actually go, it was already over. And so that's why we were seeing our defense getting gashed. And I'm not an expert, but it was cool to see you kind of talk about that. And I don't know if you necessarily remembered that, but that it correlates very strongly to what Saleh talked about during the season.
Yeah, I didn't see Saleh mention it, but I think what's in my head every time when I look at clips, and Nakobe Dean's he's the first linebacker I've gotten to. There are a couple others that I'm really interested in, but the really difficult memory that's in my head is that Thursday night game against the Colts where they ran for, it felt like a bazillion yards.
Yeah.
And you just saw it. The front four, they weren't recognizing, right? Because that's the counter to the defense that the Jets are trying to run with these 4 down linemen with their ability to be aggressive, is if you pull that guard, if you run that trap, if you run that counter, and they're just headed upfield like a chicken without a head, and they're not being aware of their surroundings, and the linebackers are now obviously the offensive line is getting to the second level, and if the linebackers are late, I mean, it's just a free-for-all at that point. There's no stopping it, and that's kind of what happened to them on that Thursday night game.
Thank you. you're doing an outstanding job. I just wanted to thank everybody for all the comments. We will get back to our chatting after the breakdowns. And if you guys wouldn't mind, if you're in here watching right now, please go ahead and hit that like button. Would really appreciate that. It helps the channel out a lot. And again, we're planning to do this all off season, so any support that you guys can offer would really mean a lot. So thanks guys for watching this. There are a lot of people who really liked what they saw when you were breaking down Nakobe. Are we moving to Evan Neal, or are we still with Nakobe here?
So I got one more, but I'm going to make this one quick.
No, you're good.
It was a last minute submission on this one, just because again, I have a very very keen interest on the whole instincts, ability to recognize here, and so this one, it's going to be a pass by Alabama. Nakobe Dean is the I'll call him. He's the weak side linebacker here, so he's on the left hand side, or closer to us here, and he's got Brian Robinson, who's the running back, essentially in man coverage. And Brian Robinson is going to, after the play action, he's going to stay in and block. So Nakobe Dean is not going to sit there with his hands on his head and just say, okay, all right, Brian Robinson's just standing there. What do I do? He sees it, and he's going to say, all right, I'm going to blitz Bryce Young. If you're going to sit there and you're going to block, you're not going to go out for a route. I'm going to attack Brian Robinson, and I'm going to try to get to the quarterback. So he blitzes in. He puts a hit on Brian Robinson, but then Brian Robinson, who's also a very good football player, says, if that's what you're going to do, then I'll take the hit, and then I'll release out into the flat, and now you're in trouble, right? And Nakobe Dean just kind of does not panic, right? He doesn't just attack Bryce Young and say, okay, well, he's going to, I'll just hit him and maybe it affects the throw. He recognizes that he's in a little bit of a pickle here. And so what he does is he slows up. When Bryce Young winds up, he gets those hands up and he deflects the pass. No good, because if Brian Robinson catches this pass, it's a touchdown.
It's a lot of green grass.
The only thing you got is a prayer, and that's probably not going to help you. And so just a really cool reactionary play where you saw him make a decision. Another really good player made a counter to it, and then Nakobe Dean was still able to have the wherewithal to say, okay, I'm not going to get to him. I got to affect the pass, and he was able to affect the pass.
Awesome. Mike, are you a Nakobe Dean lover like me? It's a mixed bag. I think in our chat there's we're gonna get a tour. Oh, take us on a tour. Give us a tour.
That's funny. I was so excited that I knocked the whole camera over. So that just tells you everything you need to know. Back to you, John.
Well, and I think a lot of people, their concern is like the size issue. Yeah. And I think to me, it's like, yes, true. I look at it from the perspective of the recognition, the play recognition aspect. Like, he seems like the instinctive kind of linebacker. And I think a lot of people are pointing out his size. And I'm not saying that those same people love Quincy Williams, but Quincy Williams is 5'11" and 220, something like that, 225. And honestly, if we're looking at Quincy Williams, we love his big hitting ability. We love his speed. It's more or less like, not trying to slam Quincy Williams necessarily, but I'm not. My point is like if he had some of that play recognition ability that we see from Dean, we have a hell of a player in Quincy Williams. And I think that's kind of the attractiveness of adding somebody like Nakobe Dean, is then you not only are adding depth, you're adding competition at that position, and just we need speed. We need fast freaking players on the field.
Wasn't Jonathan Vilma similar in skill set? I don't know how tall Jonathan Vilma is.
Yeah, a lot of people are comping him a little bit to that. I like the comp, and I don't know how tall Roquan Smith is, but I like a comp to Roquan a little bit. He's another guy that got drafted in the top 10. Roquan, I think it was like top 7, top 8, something like that.
Yeah.
So there you go. Guys, you're just absolutely loading up the chat, and I do see them and I'm reading them. And Matthias is confirming Vilma was 6'1", the Miami Hurricane. Good football player, and again another linebacker that we said, okay, see ya, go to the Saints and have a nice career. With the guy Demario Davis, we also did the same thing. See ya, buddy. Good linebacker. Goodbye. Go to the Saints. Have a nice career. All right, we will continue on with our film here.
Just a very quick last point here on Dean is, I'm not saying I know Joe Douglas, but we've kind of seen some of the type of players that he wants to bring in, meaning character-wise. Nakobe Dean, I feel like if you get him and Saleh in the same room in a pre-draft meeting, breaking down film, I mean, I think he's going to be a type of guy that's going to blow them away with his ability to break down what he's doing, what he needs to do. We all saw that clip from the national championship where one of the linebackers didn't do what he was supposed to do, and Nakobe Dean was right up in his face. He's the leader. He's the heart of that defense.
I know that play you're talking about at the goal line. Awesome.
At the goal line. Yep. And you know what? That linebacker came back the next play, and he saved the touchdown. And Dean went over to him, and it was kind of just like, I was hard on you, but it's a good play. So I think that match, right, and it depends where we're picking, and we're going to get into that stuff, but, that match with a C.J. Mosley type of guy, putting him on the field with a Nakobe Dean, you're looking at, a really special tandem, not only on the field, but what they're going to bring to the rest of the guys. And I'm intangibles to the day that I die. I know some of it's coach speak, maybe here and there, but I am very much in on the fact that these guys need to be all in, and he's the guy that will be for sure.
And they want that. That's what they've preached. Is they want guys who love ball, and so
Absolutely.
I think that's what that's why I've been preaching about Nakobe, and you kind of noticed it on social media. I really like him a lot, and is he a perfect fit? I don't know. I have no idea. Some people are saying maybe he's not the right size. I just think that he fits that all gas, no break, and I think that he would help us a lot on defense. And as much as and I think a lot of people like C.J. Mosley, C.J. Mosley may be gone. This might be his last year after this upcoming season. So I think he's going to definitely be on the team this coming year. Yes. And then moving forward, he might not be on the football team. I think that he is going to be one of those guys that could be cut after the 2022 season. So you're kind of looking forward a little bit. Kind of like what we did with Elijah Moore. Everybody was saying, oh, why'd we draft a wide receiver? Well, looking forward, we had a bunch of guys up for free agency. And so that's kind of my mindset with linebacker. All right, we're on to Neil.
Yeah, we're on to Neil. I think this is still the Dean play. Is it? Yeah, I think this. Oh, yeah. Yep. So, there you go. Hands up. But you can tell he's a twitchy athlete. I know people give him crap for his size, but sorry. Anyway, we're on to Neil. So here is Neil against Cincinnati. So again, kind of with my point, we'll see some Georgia in here, but I included some Cincinnati, and I included some Cincinnati because there is a guy lined up in the 7 technique across from Evan Neal that I have seen Jets Twitter talk about quite a bit, and that is Maji Sanders from Cincinnati. So I figured I'd get some clips in here because he did not have a good day against Evan Neal. This was Evan Neal got the best of him. But here, this first play, I made it the first play because it's my favorite play, and I only included the back end here because it's kind of hard to see sometimes the pass blocks with the sideline view, the end zone view for the lineman. Pretty fun. Cool. So here. What Cincinnati is going to do is Sanders is actually going to run a stunt with the linebacker that's over the center, number 3 there. So Maji is going to come inside Evan Neal, and that guy is going to loop around and go outside of Evan Neal. So they're attacking the inside and the outside, and Evan Neal blocks both of them. He makes this. He makes this throw. He makes this play possible. This was a 3rd and 14 that was caught by Jameson Williams. I haven't gotten over that one yet. Sorry, that
Yeah,
I cut it off pretty quickly
that's okay.
to the next play. But yeah, so Evan Neal here, you got to be able to deal with the stunts, right? We dealt with that a lot this year with our linemen, where it felt like in the interior, at least, the interior offensive linemen had a lot of trouble with dealing with the stunts, and it caused all sorts of havoc. And the quick note about Evan Neal for people that want to draft Evan Neal at 4 or whatever spot they might want they might want to get him if there's a trade down type of situation. I don't think he lasts more than probably beyond 4. But one of the things with Evan Neal is he was at Alabama for 3 years. He played guard, he played right tackle, and then he played left tackle. So it's kind of, he's a positional versatility type of guy to where if you draft him, you can plug him into right tackle. You can have him sit and learn. If you bring a guy like Morgan Moses back, he can play left tackle. If something happens with Mekhi Becton, he can potentially maybe play that right guard spot. It may be a difficult ask. I know not a lot of people are familiar with, not familiar, or are keen on having guys move inside, then outside, move inside, then outside. I get it. But you're talking about a guy who has done all 3 before, and so you have some versatility with where you can put him. So that first play there, if we just back it up just a couple seconds maybe. Yeah, so that first play there. So you can see Sanders takes that inside step. Evan Neal is pretty explosive off the line of scrimmage. He's a big body, so he trusts in the fact, sometimes maybe too much, that if you want to go around him, it's probably going to take you way too long to do that. By that time, the ball is probably out. But here, he gets his hands on Maji Sanders and really takes him out of the play, but has the ability to get back to the stunting linebacker and move him away from the play and really create that clean pocket for Bryce Young to get that ball out. So a real combination of elite size, elite strength, elite explosiveness off that line of scrimmage, whether it's the run block or the pass block and his pass set. But probably his best trait is his hands. His hands always have elite positioning, and once he gets his hands on you, it's going to be very difficult to do anything remotely, positive to get to the quarterback. He keeps Bryce Young clean day in and day out, but like I said, he does have some issues here and there with a speed rusher if they can get around the edge on him, because he can rely a little bit too much on that size and strength and not be, not keep his footwork consistent. So here, this is Georgia. Quay Walker is off the screen right now, but he's going to come. He's going to come on the rush, and he's actually going to go outside and do a spin move inside. And so Evan Neal, really good pass set off the line of scrimmage. He's explosive. He gets there, and then his hands. His hands are the number one thing I'm going to point out most of the time there. He gets that left hand on his chest, right? So he's able to kind of keep him positioned. And then when he goes for the spin move, Evan Neal doesn't fall for it, right? He's able to get his feet back under him. And then he's back with his hands being square up, like Quay Walker never even did the spin move at all. He ended up back square, good base, good strength, and he was able to keep Quay Walker from getting inside on the spin move there. Ultimately, I mean, the play wasn't successful, but Evan Neal is pretty superiorly talented when it comes to using his hands in the pass blocking game.
Neal was successful.
And Neal was successful. Okay, so here we're gonna have some fun here. This is what I labeled this the Michael Orr blindside block. If you've ever seen the movie The Blind Side, if you guys can remember the scene where Michael Orr, or the actor who plays Michael Orr, is pissed off at the defensive end across the line of scrimmage, that he takes him over the fence, and he dumps him over the fence, and he says that he was pissing him off. He needed to go back to the bus and go home, so he took him to the bus. Evan Neal is going to take Maji Sanders just completely off the grid
for a ride,
and for a ride, and he does his job. This play winds up getting blown up because the left guard does not do his job. But we could just run this play and watch where Evan Neal and Maji Sanders end up. Yeah.
Off the field.
Off the field. By the time he pancakes him, they are no longer in the field of play.
Oh my God.
And so there is an elite level strength from a guy that's 6'7", 350. Once he gets his hands on you, you can see Maji is kind of in a situation where his hands are not on Evan Neal, and Evan Neal's just got him by the shoulder pad, and it's just he takes him to the sideline. So there is elite level strength and power by a guy who is just so much bigger than most people that are going to be on the field.
So we have a couple of questions regarding Neal, and I do want to get to them before they slip down too far. I think we have like one or two more plays left, so I thought this might be an okay time to stop just to get to these comments. So one person, it's on the screen right now. If Neal falls to 4, he's not asking should we take him, will we take him. He's saying do we have to take him? Like basically, is he a guy that we can't really pass up? It's a great question. The way he worded it, I think, is awesome.
That question.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm just kidding, James.
You could do it. Go ahead, Mike.
No, for sure.
I say that because I put my cards out there that I'm huge about getting an offensive lineman. Obviously, I made a bold statement for the last offseason that I took a lot of shit on. And I'm going to do it again, baby, because you're right. I think we can take him at number 4. I'm not going to lie. Maybe we could get there. I'm not going to go. That's a topic. But I think that given the state of our line and given the talent that obviously you're breaking down here live in real time, I don't know. I just feel like, I think about the 2010 season, the 2009 season. We had the wall of all walls, and I don't know why of course, where he fits in the line is a major point. You know, where we already had Becton, what we do with Moses, where Vera Tucker is. But I mean, the guy's got so much talent. I'm enjoying. I got my popcorn here, watching these play breakdowns. But yeah, I was just kidding because I'm huge on getting an offensive line talent early in the draft, and
Mike,
I'm pretty sure.
I'm gonna assure you of something. So if Chad were on the other corner above you, he would be saying the exact same thing. So you're not by yourself. There are a lot of people that I think a lot of people would actually probably agree with you that if he's at 4, probably it'd be a situation like Vern was saying, like, can we pass him up? I think that's the question. So, James, why don't you go for it?
Yeah, so right now I'm on the fence. I feel like I can't say yes. And it has nothing to do with the talent of Evan Neal. One of the things I do want to look at is that NC State offensive lineman that everyone has jumping up the boards. He's another freak level guy, so it becomes a game of if Evan Neal's there at 4, what's the comparison between him and the guy's name is very hard to say, so I'm just gonna call him NC State.
I know who you're talking about. Ikem.
Yeah.
Right.
Ikem. Yeah. Ikem. Okay. I think that's his first name, and then his last name is I don't want to butcher it on the guy.
Sure. Nope, I got you.
I'll call him. Yeah, NC State. It becomes a matter of when you're evaluating them as prospects, do you have them on 2 different tiers, or do you have them so close to where it's like, okay, we don't have to take, we don't have to take Evan Neal because we like this other guy, quite a bit. Maybe we take him. I'm not going to say names, but I've had some discussions where Evan Neal is not offensive tackle number 1 on draft boards, and that's not decision makers. These are just guys that I talk to on Twitter through Jets X Factor that we privately chat here and there, and a couple of them do not have Evan Neal as offensive tackle 1. So they've looked at the NC State offensive lineman, and they rate him higher than Evan Neal. So it's an interesting conversation. Now, the way I know that's the way he worded is it, do we have to? So my answer is going to be no, I don't think we have to. but I would not be, standing there with a pitchfork if that's what happens.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's go ahead and let's move on to this next play.
Yeah, so this one's just the end zone view of
Gotcha.
of that one, and then I just have one more play there. But yeah, I mean
Good Lord.
That's kind of
It's
ridiculous.
crazy. So again, this is not a scrub. This is a guy that's going to get drafted fairly early in the draft, day 2 pick maybe, something like that. Maybe he sneaks in round 1. I don't know. That's kind of the range that I thought maybe.
Yeah. So for me, for that guy, Sanders, it's going to be a matter of fit for what you're looking for. In my opinion, he does not. He's not a 4-3 defensive end. He's more of one of those stand-up outside linebackers who's going to be more of a pass rush guy rather than an end that we're looking for that can obviously rush the passer, but needs to be strong in the run game. And I just don't think the run game is his forte there. So
there you go.
He's going to be a high pick. It's just not where I would go for a fit for the Jets defense.
All right, fair enough. All right, I think this will be the last one.
This is it, and it's the same game, and it's the same matchup in the run game. It's this is one of those plays again. You're going to see the explosiveness off the line of scrimmage to get to Sanders in the run game. Now, this play winds up going opposite of Evan Neal, but we start out on the right hash, and Evan Neal is going to run block Maji Sanders to the left hash. So it is it's a little bit, it looks like maybe an RPO here for Bryce Young, maybe even an option play where he could have handed it off to the running back, but they wind up running this play with the tight end where he ends up lateraling it to the tight end, but it winds up being an illegal forward pass. But for Evan Neal purposes, you can see the explosiveness off the line and where he takes Maji Sanders. It's very explosive, and the strength and the power to get him completely out of the play is something that is pretty relevant on his tape. Now, there is one thing in the run game that I have noticed a few times. So in the pass game, I would say his weakness is the potential of the edge rush, and here he'll wind up going off the screen because the play goes right. But you can see how he attacks him right off the line of scrimmage. It is very enticing when you're talking about having a guy like Michael Carter in the backfield, having a guy like Mekhi Becton, having a guy like Elijah Barrett-Tucker, and then can we put an Evan Neal at a right guard spot, a right tackle spot, and have him block like that. So my negatives on Evan Neal there are pass game. He can be susceptible to the speed rusher if he's inconsistent with his footwork. And then 2, there will be times where he goes to down block and he's so dang big that he gets a little bit off balance and he kind of falls forward and he misses the block and he kind of winds up getting up and he's a little bit lost. So those 2 things are something to keep in mind. Overall, obviously, the film is very good, but those are just some things to keep in mind when you're kind of, when you're looking at him to, be a pick that high.
If you if you're just tuning in and you missed out, James just did a breakdown on linebacker Nakobe Dean from Georgia. He did a breakdown on offensive tackle Evan Neal from Alabama. I mean, as always, it's fantastic stuff, man. We always learn something listening to you talk about it. So really want to thank you.
Thanks.
There were a ton of comments, people talking about it and saying, what a great job you did. So thank you very much. Really, really appreciate that. There's a lot there. So over the course of the time that you were talking, there were 2 names that I saw the most being talked about, not named Nakobe and Evan Neal. Kyle Hamilton's name kept popping up over and over and over again. I think he's going to be one of the most controversial topics for Jets fans all off season. And then also, as of lately, Tyler Linderbaum, his name keeps getting thrown in there as well. I'm almost wondering if whenever we do this again, perhaps those are the 2 guys we take a look at because, again, not only is it fun to spark the to spark the or to start a fire, basically, because I know that's going to create a lot of arguments and debates, which is good. Those are two of the most hot button topics, in my opinion, those two players. So we will likely have those two guys for you on the show. If not next week, the week after that. Harry W says, nice job. Thank you, Harry W. Appreciate that. Yep. And we got Vern saying, good stuff, James. Who we breaking down next? Just went over that. I'm pretty sure that'll be it. I'll talk to James, though. He'll give me who is, because he'll pick. I kind of pick these two. I'll let him choose next time, probably. All right, good stuff. So we will move on, and we're going to let you have a break. Give you a little chance to drink a little bit, have a sip. Mikey, we're going to go to the next topic. Are you ready, buddy?
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect. Let's go to... We're going to skip the Zach Wilson talk. Maybe we'll go to that next week. This is a pretty heavy one, and it is a mailbag question. It's from Harrison Mouskowitz. Harrison, thank you very much for submitting. By the way, if you're watching this stream right now, I throw a mailbag on the community tab on the YouTube channel. I tweet it out during the week. Submit your takes, submit your questions, and I do include them in the show. So if you're interested in having your hot button stuff talked about, we will include it in the show. So all you have to do is just pay attention during the week, and you can send in your stuff. So here it is from Harrison. What would you do with your top 4 picks? He's saying, would you take Evan Neal? Would you draft Karl Laftis from Purdue? Or would you trade? And so that's where we're going to go. Mike, you're up. What are you doing at pick 4? What are you doing at pick 10? There are rumors right now from SNY right now that the Jets are actually not even going to use that 10th overall pick. They're going to do something with it. It could be a trade for, a trade back. It could be a trade up. It could be a, trading for a player. James, I think you're saying trading down. So, Mikey, what are you doing? What are you doing at 4? What are you doing at 10?
I mean, the number 4 pick is really hard for me.
It's very hard.
I don't think that as much as I want an offensive lineman, I'm not pushing for the number 4 pick to be that pick. Obviously the two names I'm stuck between is Derek Stingley and George Karl Loftus.
I think it's Karl Laftis. I want to say Karl Loftus too. I think it's Karl Laftis.
Those are obviously the two names I circle around. It has to be defense, for that first pick. After that, I'm going to go offense. So if there's people out there who think we should go defense with both our top picks, then if we trade down, that's a different situation. But I do think that the first pick has to go defense. And I see a need in both areas. Obviously, the secondary. I'm not taking. I feel bad picking on our secondary because the average age was like 23 years old in our secondary. I mean, they did the best they could to develop as quickly as they could, and I really don't think they deserve to be ragged on necessarily. Not to say that any of us are, but put Derek Stingley in there, to me, put some energy in there, put some long-term optimism in that group that I think will gravitate around Bryce Hall and depending on what we do with Marcus May and things like that. But so Derek Stingley is obviously at the top of a lot of people's draft boards. And George Karl Loftus is obviously a name that carries a lot of weight. And to me, what James did today is kind of brought me perspective, which is, should I be looking at linebacker? Because when I prepped for tonight's stream, I was thinking either the first pick either got to be the secondary pick, or it's got to be a defensive end or some type of edge ability. That said, as I sit here right now, I'm actually leaning more edge and linebacker than I am in the secondary with Derek Stingley, only for the fact that, one, James did a hell of a job with his play breakdown, and two, as I was going through the free agency, there seems to be a lot of talent in the free agent market when it comes to secondary, which means, why perhaps should we necessarily pass on an edge, on a linebacker or a lineman, whatever camp that you are, why should we pass on one of those when there's a pretty deep free agent market for corners and safeties out there. I know there's the individual at Tampa, who I can't remember his name off the top of my head, who's a free agent. I don't want to butcher names or BS that I name off the top. I'm just going to break it down one pick at a time, John, and then I'll turn it over to you. For the fourth pick, I'm defense, and I'm probably circling between an edge and, after hearing from James, maybe even a linebacker, just based on the fact that, like you said, Mosley is probably limited, and we need to secure some of those positions at that point. But of course, Derek Stingley is the top of a lot of people's list, so I wouldn't be opposed to that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of chat from Mr. Vern talking about the Greek freak in the chat. And I will say that if we're going to go offensive line, which I have put out a video this past weekend, I made a prediction that they're not going to take a offensive lineman in the first round. And I think it gets a lot of people upset. I'm not saying that we should not take offensive line. I just don't think it's going to happen in round 1. All right, James, I would love to hear from you. What are you doing at pick 4 and pick 10?
Yeah, so I am unless somehow, obviously, if Thibodeau falls to 4, right? I think that's like the main dream situation for a lot of Jets Twitter is one of those 1 or 2 guys going to fall to 4 potentially, right? Probably not going to happen. But I would trade out of 4. That's my initial take. 100 days or so away from the draft is I know the news came out that they want to trade 10. I would rather trade 4, right? Trade 4, wind up somewhere in the mid-teens. You recoup a nice, set of draft picks there. Whether it doesn't even have to be picks for me for all of them this year. You could stock up on some additional draft capital in 2023. It gives you more flexibility, which I think is something Joe Douglas loves there. And I'll go specific players of what I'm looking for right now. And again, this is 100 days from the draft. But the single best game, single performance, right? Just one film, one tape of what I've watched so far is Sauce Gardner against Alabama in the Cotton Bowl. He jumped out immediately, and he did not disappoint for the entire game. It was the most impressive single game performance that I've watched yet. I would take him at number 10. That's where I would take him. If he's available at 10, I would go Sauce Gardner. Now, you can tell me, listen, we don't need the lockdown corner. This isn't what the defense looks for. I think that is completely wrong because we watched this team play man-to-man in almost every single third down type of situation. And Bryce Hall did what he could in most situations. We just did not have the firepower for the rest of the group. If you can get a guy like Sauce Gardner at 10 to be that number 1, opposite of a guy like Bryce Hall, Michael Carter II, maybe even Brandon Echols, they fit somewhere, in the slot. Echols may be more of an outside corner, but he gives you depth. I really think that's the first piece in putting this secondary together is getting that elite level dynamic athlete to play corner to match up with these guys we got to deal with. We're watching Stephon Diggs run everywhere. I'm not saying Sauce Gardner is going to guard Stephon Diggs from day one, but we got to try to do something or else they're just going to throw the ball everywhere. And so that's where I would go at number 10. And then if I wind up in the mid-teens, I'm sorry, I'm looking at wide receiver here. My initial pick of Jamison Williams, he was my draft crush at wide receiver. It's not going to happen, and I feel terrible about that. But I'm really, really intrigued by Treylon Burks from Arkansas because I think we're looking now for that Deebo Samuel, right? That guy who's he's big, he's fast, he's athletic. You can put him in the backfield, you could put him in the slot. He's 6'3", 225. You could play him in the slot, and you can hand him the ball on those whether it's end arounds or however you want to screen passes. I think it would be a pretty dynamic level of the offense. So my main thing for the first round, and I get everyone's offensive line aspect, is add a dynamic athlete on defense, and add a dynamic athlete on offense.
Thank God you're here. Just thank all of the gods that exist, man. I have been talking about that for, I would say, at least a month right now. I get it. Everybody wants this offense, this Hall of Fame lineup of offensive linemen, and I want that too. Everybody wants to have a dominant offensive line. That's not to say that I'm willing to have a bad offensive line. I'm only saying let's go get some freaking playmakers on this defense and on this offense. Eventually, you have to go and get those guys. We're sitting here, it's January 19th. James might change his mind and I might change my mind, but as I sit here, I'm very, very comfortable opting for free agency and for the mid rounds to supplement the offensive line and to improve it rather than investing a third first round pick into the offensive line. I do not have Sauce Gardner at 10, and of all of the players that I didn't select, I think he would be one of those guys that I would be very comfortable with if they did find a way to land him at 10. This is a guy who did not give up a touchdown, I believe, his entire college career. Not one touchdown was thrown on his guy. And you talked about it in the, was it the Cotton Bowl, you said?
Yep. Yeah.
So in the Cotton Bowl against Alabama, and they did lose that game, Cincinnati, but he looked every bit of the part, and he played really nicely, and I feel like everybody was watching him. Jets fans were paying attention to Sauce in that game. They were paying attention to Jameson. He really stood out, so I'd be very happy with him. So here's what I have written down on my little note sheets here. So right off the bat, I would not trade out of 4 until draft night. I would not miss out on the opportunity. And it's a crazy, a crazy scenario. But if for some odd reason one of these pass rushers falls to 4, I am tripping over myself to get the card in to select a Hutchinson or a Thibodeau. Thibodeau? Which one is it here? Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Thibodeau. Okay. I actually prefer Thibodeau, but it's not really like a huge difference. I like the speed off the edge that he presents. Okay, so that's my first rule. You will not trade that 4th overall pick, trading back, trading up until draft night. If they fall, I'm taking them. I already said that. I would consider moving up from 4. And I'm actually more on that side than I am trading back from 4. I don't know if anybody's gonna covet that pick so much. Like if the opportunity presented itself and somebody wanted to jump to 4, hell yeah, I'm signing up on that one all day. We could use some future picks, obviously, and that would be beneficial. But to me, I would actually be willing to move up to 2, or even to flip flop with Houston at 3. To go make sure we go get a pass rusher. So I'm actually up for that one. I know that Joe Caporoso and Connor Rogers, thank you. They talked about it on their show, on their podcast, about maybe even being willing to do that, moving up into that top 3 to go get one of those guys. And I'm actually more in favor of doing that than trading back from 4. If those scenarios do not work out, I'm then trying to trade back, and I would try to jump back like 3 to 5 picks, stay in that, that top 10 range if possible. Somebody mentioned in the chat earlier about the Broncos, and I can't find it really quickly. But the Broncos would be a great spot. I think they're picking at like 9 or something like that. That would be a cool spot. And ultimately, I want to take a wide receiver with that pick. So it's not really a whole lot different from you, James. I would like to land a wide receiver with our first pick, our highest pick, Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks. Go get one of those boys. Bring them home. Get a playmaker for Zach Wilson. The concern that I have with doing that is then you now have another rookie wide receiver, and there's no guarantees they're going to be ready day one to, be 1,000-yard receiver. But I feel like you have to take that swing and you have to take that risk. So that's my pick: Garrett Wilson or Traylon Burks in that pick. And then with the 10th overall pick, I think it's pretty obvious. If Nakobe Dean is available, if we trade back a few spots, land Nakobe Dean. And that's the other thing. Like, if we trade up from 4, we could trade back from 10 and recoup. Like, that's the wizardry. Like, I know that's not necessarily guaranteed because you have to have somebody to dance with in order to do that. But if we're able to move up for a Kayvon Thibodeau, and then maybe move back a couple of spots with 10, that's music to my ears. That's a dream scenario. So wide receiver, and then let's go get a speed guy on at the linebacker spot.
So John, let me ask you a question. What are you willing to give up to go from and not 3? Let's say Aiden Hutchinson's taken number 1 by the Jacksonville Jaguars. What are you willing to give up to move from 4 to 2 to get Thibodeau?
I don't know. I'm willing to do it. What would I be willing to give up? I'm not sure. I know that the Bears and the Niners did that trade recently where they just flopped picks, and they gave up some mid-round picks to do that. So if I'm jumping from 4 to 2, I think that it could be that you might even be paying like at least a 3rd-round pick, if not more. Right. Potentially, it's getting to that point where then you're potentially giving up a 2nd-round pick, which we have 2 really high 2nd-round picks, and that makes me a little bit worried. If they could come up with a package where they're not giving up one of those 2nd-rounders, I'd be really interested in it. I don't think that scenario is very likely, though. And what would I trade? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'd be willing to do it, though, because I think that, again, you've heard me mention it a couple of times tonight. I'm so sick of watching the quarterback stand back there, brush his hair, pick his nose, and just do whatever he needs to do back in the pocket. I'm really, really tired of seeing that. There's really not a whole lot that happens on a football field that bothers me more than that. So I'm really over that. And if we can go get an elite prospect at the edge, I think I'm willing to pay the price, even if it's giving up that precious 2nd-rounder. So
can I make a quick point here?
Sure. Are you about to shit all over this idea?
No. I had it in my notes because we saw the trade down to me, like there is like an inherent risk, right? Like you're getting picks, right? You're getting more assets. Everything is fine and dandy. Now we have more to play with, and Jets Twitter can go wild over who else they want. There's an inherent risk in, like, you look at the Giants last year. Like, they traded the 11th pick to the Chicago Bears, who wound up picking Justin Fields, and they moved back to 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 12th pick was Micah Parsons, and the 13th pick was Rashawn Slater. The 14th pick was Elijah Barrett-Tucker. So there is 3 players, right, that the Giants realistically could have very well used, I no doubt about it, that have perennial all-pro potential in the NFL. And, like, if that situation happens to me or happens to us, I'll say we're all in this together.
Yeah.
But it's an inherent risk that the narrative that if you need to lose to get a top 5 pick, if you're a rebuilding team because you're going to get an elite talent, is so far from the truth that if you wind up messing around and continuously trading back for more picks, you very well might wind up missing on that J.J. Watt that was taken 11th, that Aaron Donald that was taken 12th, that Micah Parsons that was taken. There is supreme talent to be had in those rounds, in those values, where you don't need to have a top 5 pick to secure a potential Hall of Famer. So it's being comfortable with we're trading out of this spot, and who are we potentially passing on by trading out of that spot?
Very well said. And my dad, so this is a good point because my dad is during the end of the season, he was like, let's lose every game. Let's lose every game. I was like, you know what? No, like we can go root for wins because we're not looking for a quarterback right now. And also, it's on Joe Douglas to make the picks wherever he's slotted. And you're right. And the J.J. Watt one is the one that I always refer to. There are guys in that range for sure. And I think that if we're able to trade back, it's very, very attractive, no doubt. I'm so desperate. I'm so desperate for that damn edge rusher. It's crazy. All right, we got to get to the chat. I've been ignoring them quite a bit. We will move on to a couple more topics, and then we'll probably put a bow on the show here. So let's go ahead. Grant Rude saying J-Mo ain't getting past the teens, even with the injury. The guy I think about is Willis McGahee. He was a projected very, very high pick. He's a running back. I know that was a long time ago as well. But even after incurring the injury, he still got drafted. I think it was like 20 in the 20s range. I don't know if J-Mo will go in the teens. What do you think?
I mean, he definitely, before the injury, I do not think he was making it past the teens. This new wide receiver NFL is speed and separation is the two biggest things. And listen, we have been through the ringer with wide receivers not being able to get separation. Twitter tells me Zach Wilson needs to get rid of the ball faster. And then the film says there is nowhere to go with the football. And so a guy like Jameson Williams would be, such a fantastic add to so many teams, including the Jets. The thing that's working for him is the fact that we're in 2022 and ACLs are becoming more, how do I say it, not so detrimental to somebody's career. Teams are willing, if you get that clean bill of health after a successful surgery, I do still think he'll go in the first round. I think it might wind up being in the 20s.
Yeah. And that's kind of like the Willis McGahee thing that referenced. So not far off. He's saying the teens. No. I mean, they're 19 is the teens, so technically he's not talking. He's not talking crazy here. So
no, not at all.
All right, cool stuff. We got a comment here from Robbie Oak saying, "Let's trade back with Washington, who could be QB hungry. They have the 11th overall pick, and we could potentially get their 2023 first rounder. If an opportunity like that comes, I'm actually gonna take that over the trade up for the edge." Because that's just too good. You can't pass up on another first round pick. There's no way. So hopefully Mike LaFleur sprinkles in a little bit of magic at the Senior Bowl for Mr. Pickett. I know that's like a big conversation for people right now. Zach Davis.
Number one job.
Oh, yeah. He's got a lot of jobs at that Senior Bowl. That's definitely one of the top priorities. Make him look good. All right, Zach Davis, he says, if you can trade back a few spots from 4, still get another 2 guys you want in the top 10 and pick up another pick in the second, I would do that. I would go Linderbaum and Burks, depending on free agency. We are going to talk about free agency tonight, just a little bit, because we are running out of time. And I think that'll be the emphasis next week, is we'll really strike hard on free agency. And we'll maybe even make some predictions and projections. Wow. Those two words do not belong in the same sentence. Predictions and projections on what we think will happen in free agency. So we got Kyle Craig in the chat, a new face. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining us. He says, joining late, so sorry if this was already covered, but would you trade back into round 1 for McBride, the tight end from Colorado State? He is going to be on the Jets Senior Bowl squad, along with Jeremy Ruckert, a New York, whatchamacallit?
Long Island. Yep.
Yeah, from Long Island. Native. No, that's what I was trying to say. Native. Jeremy Ruckert's there. There's a couple of other names too, though. Would I be willing to do that? I'm willing to do anything. And I think that's the way, like, Joe Douglas has kind of said it. Like, having all the assets allows flexibility. So would I be willing to do it? Sure. For shit's sake, we need a tight end. So, yeah, go get yourself a guy that you feel really, really good about. But I like a couple of names. So if they don't feel comfortable doing that, there's other guys in this draft. It's actually a pretty decent tight end draft. Mike, would you trade up for a tight end?
No, I don't think I would. I would. There's also some decent tight ends in free agency as well. So I just think there's too many options there for a trade up.
Okay, fair enough. James, would you be willing to trade up for a Trey McBride?
I would. I think there's one name in free agency that everyone's looking for.
Schultz.
Dalton Schultz is that one name that if you pay him, but I will say I'm still that even if we get Dalton Schultz in free agency, I'm on the table for whatever they want to do at tight end. Obviously, recklessness aside, if they feel like Trey McBride is that guy, and they have the assets to move. This is why you make all those trades.
Exactly.
I would still because in my opinion, the whole room needs to be revamped. So just Dalton Schultz in free agency is not going to get the job done.
Yeah, of all the position groups, I feel like maybe that's the one where I'd be okay with them maybe not bringing anybody back. You could probably bring Yeboah back. I think that's fair. But see ya, Ryan Griffin. See ya, Mr. Yeah, Tyler Croft. Thank you. Yeah, and just reboot. We've got to get guys that can scare the defense at that position. Because let's be honest, that position group, nobody gave. They didn't give a shit what they did on the field. Again, you can't think of a play where you're like, oh wow, the tight end made such a big play. Like that didn't happen this season. There wasn't even a single moment where you're like, wow, great job, tight end.
Well, that's why Zach was down an entire receiving opportunity with our tight end situation.
Spin Max Dave, he says, no need to pick a tight end or a wide receiver in round one. There will be value positions in the second round to get them. Jahan Dotson's a guy that could be in round two. It's available. Wide receiver from Penn State. I know a lot of people really, really like him. So, yeah, no, there's definitely value. We mentioned Ruckert. Charlie Kohler is another guy that could be a tight end of interest. So, nice job by you, Spin Max Dave. Thanks for that. And Matthias is agreeing. Tight end is a must. I don't think there's any doubt. All right, cool. We got one more topic in us. You guys can handle? All right, beautiful. So let's go with, since we're going to make next episode a free agency focus, I'm actually going to skip that one for now, which kind of makes me sad. But we will go ahead and we'll do a ranking. And so this is a test, by the way. And this is a test for the community that is watching right now. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't hit that like button, please do it right now. This is a test, and you can fail this damn test. Mike can fail it. James can fail it. I can't fail it.
I'm gonna fail it.
I wrote the thing. I'm the teacher. I wrote the test. I already know all the answers. So, but the guys who are in this stream right now can also fail. So, you're gonna rank the Jets' top 5 needs for this offseason, and I'm going to say needs with a twist. So position value matters in this ranking. The depth on the roster matters as well. The importance in the scheme matters in this scenario.
Can you make it any more complicated?
Well, you can also just rank them, rank 5 positions that you think are most important that we'd address. And that's a fine way to take it. Does anybody want to spin at this first? Yeah, just 5, Robbie Oak. That's the point. It's supposed to be challenging. If I said top 10 needs, then it would be easy peasy. But we're going to make it hard. And that's the whole point. There's going to be positions that you can't put in this list, and then everybody's going to chew your ass off because you didn't include it. See how I work? The mad scientist. I get crazy. So, anybody want to spin first?
I'll go first. Fuck it.
Go for it. And Miss Michelle, she knows. It's SAT level stuff here. So go ahead, Mike.
Do I actually spin something, or do I just spit out my
5 positions, and then you can talk about, if you want to, you can talk about why they're ranked that way after you give us all 5. It's up to you, though.
All right, I'm gonna go. I really can't say if they're in the order considering all the factors that you spit out. I'm just gonna go with the 5, and then I'll sort out whether I have them ranked correctly.
You've already lost 5 points for taking this long.
Right, great. I got the secondary. I got wide receiver. I got offensive line. I got tight end, and I got edge rusher.
Oh, good Lord. Okay. I guess you can explain that. Go ahead. I got the secondary in there. Obviously, we need some top talent in there. We need stability. We need dependency. We need to feel like there's some dependable talent that we can rely on, especially with these high-powered teams that we'll be facing in the future. I think there's a good foundation there with some existing talent, some that obviously is in the mix with the free agency discussion next week. But Bryce Hall's there with some bright spots in Brandon Echols and others. However, it's just not enough to get us over the hill. Secondary, I don't think I'm going to get any complaints or arguments out of that. It's kind of a cheat, though. It's kind of a cheat. Secondary? That's 3 freaking positions in one. Free safety, strong safety, and corner?
Yeah, I'm covering all 3 of them.
All right, go ahead. keep going. You're doing great.
On the wide receiver front, we have a lot of guys up in the free agency for this year, so I feel like that combined with I can't see the comments, so I already know.
You don't need to see. It's okay.
I don't need to see. I obviously there's a lot of room for improvement on the wide receiving core. Not to say that certain members didn't have bright spots again, but I think we need some young talent there, or more dynamic talent. Because these we're not just saying for the draft, right? This is also for free agent market, right?
Whole off season. Yep, whole off season.
Okay.
Yep.
I just think we need some top tier talent out of free agency or some new talent coming out of the draft in the wide receiver core. I mean, Corey Davis, I do agree with James. I think he said it that perhaps there were some off moments or an off year for Corey. I just don't know. I don't know if I'm leaving the season knowing that Corey can continue to be our number 1. I think obviously he had some really great spots, but at the same time he had some real doubts for me. I just think it would be great to add some more wide receiver talent to Elijah Moore and to back up Corey so he doesn't feel as pressured maybe as he does. On the offensive line, I've already made my case there. I think obviously with Becton's some of the doubt that's out there in the Jet community, as well as with some inconsistencies with the line of time. They are leaps and bounds better. I'm not disagreeing with you or with James in regards to how they ended the season. However, the depth, which is one of the major factors you brought up, as well as the inconsistencies, I definitely think we need to add multiple offensive linemen to that roster, either for backup or for starting positions. And so I feel like that case is pretty easily shut at that point. Tight end, we've already talked about tight end, so I don't think I need to worry about discussing that. It's basically an invisible position for us. Zach Wilson doesn't really have a tight end versus the other 31 teams in the league. And then with the edge rusher, I just, John, you said it yourself, nothing annoys you more than a quarterback that brushes his long mane.
And you put it last.
I didn't put it last. I'm working from bottom to top.
You ranked them secondary, wide receiver, O-line, tight end, edge.
But I went from 5 to 1.
You gave it to me backwards?
Yeah, I gave it to you backwards.
What shit are you doing to me right now? All right, so you say edge is number 1. Gee, many Christmas. Okay, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. You're done. Okay. I can't believe you gave it to me backwards, but that's fun too, I guess. All right, James, are you doing reverse or are we going forward?
No, I'm gonna go from 1 to 5.
All right, great. You're up, buddy.
All right, so one for me is tight end. I have tight end at number 1 because we don't have a tight end. That's why tight end is number 1.
Correct.
And I think it is much more important in this entire scheme than we first got a glance at because we didn't have one this year. So the importance was kind of brushed aside. So I would go free agency and draft. It needs to be revamped all the way. I did go a broad level defensive line for number 2 because I do think depth wise we are in a little bit of trouble. And I don't think it's just the edge rusher. I think it is also the defensive tackle spots. We have Foley Fadukasi, who's going to be a free agent. And that I don't think, he had his moments where he struggled here and there, but he came along. He's a very good player. He's a captain. And Quinnen Williams needs to step his game up a little bit. Let's just be kind of honest there. So edge rusher, the importance of those 4 players and the amount of times that they rotate them in, the entire defensive line is number 2 for me. However they decide to do that is also fine. Other than I wouldn't spend a first round pick on a defensive tackle. I'm not in that that group.
I hear you.
3 is the secondary because to me it's the entire it's the entire group. We need a corner. I'm good with Bryce Hall at the number 2, but we need that number 1 guy that can play man coverage. And I think there are a couple avenues to get that guy. And to me, second safety spot is a must. We'll talk about some free agents next week. I'm sure you guys have the same people on the list that I do. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, I'm not all out on a Kyle Hamilton. Maybe not at 4 positional value wise for me. Mm-hmm. But if it was something where he fell to a number 10 spot, I think that is that works for me. But yeah, secondary, we need to take the ball away more. So that's important. Wide receiver is number 4 for me because of the lack of separation we've seen and the injuries we've seen. We need to get more defensive, some more dynamic playmakers that can help Zach out on offense. And then 5 is linebacker. I know CJ Mosley may not be here for many years, but he at least gives us that defensive, presence next year in the middle linebacker spot. I think we have some depth with Quincy Williams, but it would serve us well again to add to that group.
Awesome. Very well done. And Mike, you did well too. It's just the reverse shit really messed with me, buddy. All right. I will go last. I like teasing you. I can't help it. We're going to go to the chat here. They've got a bunch of rankings here, and then I'll go last, and then we'll talk about the bow. Robbie Oak, he says, let's go tight end is our number 1 need. Safety, linebacker, edge, and cornerback. I respect you for putting a lot of defense on the list. I think so many people are just so ready to say, continue to commit to the offense, add, go all offense in the draft. Like, that's not going to happen. And it's just, there's no way. There's just no freaking way. You cannot sell me on that idea at any point in the offseason, unless we go berserk on defense in free agency. Like, just go full out and add multiple players at these levels. There's no way. Kyle Craig, he says wide receiver, tight end would be his number 1. Edge, safety, linebacker, and inside offensive line. Fine list. Kev Chatta, he says, let's go O-line, edge, safety, tight end, wide receiver. Joe Douglas would approve of your top 2, so very nicely done. Michelle, who's dying to get on the show, by the way, she keeps asking me. She's like, I want to be on the show. It's coming. Don't worry, babe. Not anytime soon, though, with this top 5 that you have. So tight end, edge, safety, wide receiver, O-line. I actually don't mind your top 5. It's pretty good.
That's good.
That's pretty good. Let's see. I think we hit them all. Oh, no. Matthias Simon, he says pass rusher, tight end, linebacker, cornerback, O-line. We've got a lot of combinations here. This is good. I think we got them all. Okay, cool. All right, we do have a super chat, and it's just from Mike Galizia, and he is saying, great to see you back. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Hoping to stay consistent here. There's definitely a lull there for sure. Yep, hoping to get back to it and consistently doing it. So thank you very much. All right, my top 5, which is perfect, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. Number 1 is the edge position. I don't think I need to talk about that, and I will move on. Actually, no, I will talk about it. Secondary will play better. Bryce Hall will maybe get a couple of interceptions if we're able to actually get after the quarterback. And you cannot tell me that we got even close to pass rushing with a consistent basis that is necessary to be successful on defense. So edge is number 1 because of that. Takeaways will be created. Pressures will be created. TFLs will be created. Errant passes will be created. And these are all the things that you want with an edge. So wide receiver is my number 2. Braxton Berrios is a pending free agent. Jamison Crowder is a pending free agent. Keelan Cole is a pending free agent. We've got Davis. We've got Elijah Moore. And then what else do we have? Not a whole lot. So wide receiver has to be really high. Tight end is my 3rd spot. I don't want to go into a season where Zach Wilson doesn't have somebody that can be a security blanket and somebody that can make big plays over the middle of the field. So that's my 3rd linebacker. I've talked about Nakobe Dean. I have to be careful because I know linebacker is not actually a huge positional value. But when James was talking about the need for going downhill to defend the run and play recognition, that's kind of what I'm getting after. If they decide to address linebacker not in the draft and go more heavily in free agency, that'll be fine. I'll be a little bit sad. But I would understand why they did that. And then my final one is offensive line. I put it at 5 because I'm not willing to go in the first round with offensive line, but I do see a very big need to add players. I don't think I have a feeling LDT's not coming back. I'm starting to get that suspicion. And when you're talking about LDT, who might not be back, Morgan Moses is a pending free agent. George Fant is on the last year of his contract. Becton, although I'm a huge supporter of his still, we still don't know about him. McGovern is on the final year of his contract. I think you're catching a pattern there. Go after offensive line with free agency. Go after offensive line in rounds 2 through 5. Develop them, get them in to start as well. You cannot just build offensive line with the first round. I think it's ludicrous if we go and get an offensive lineman in the first round of this draft. And then when I hear people talking about going double offensive line, I want to strangle them. I think that is the dumbest possible idea, going double O-line in the first round. I think that is ridiculous. And if you're thinking that, I respectfully disagree with you. Very, very vehemently, though. That is not a good idea in my mind. So we left a lot of topics. So if you check the description of this stream, there are legitimately 8 topics. So the ones that we did not hit, we will hit next week. It's not a big deal. I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. I really, really appreciate all of the feedback. And it seems like you guys enjoyed the show. So really, really appreciate that. Mike, anything you want to end the show with here?
No, it's good to see you fellas. You guys look great. Community looks great. And hopefully we do it again soon.
Sounds good. And Mr. James, any last thoughts here?
No, this was fun. Appreciate you guys letting me break down some film. I always have a good time doing that. So we'll get some more prospects in here, and we got what is it, John? What's the countdown out for the draft? 98 days, 99 days.
If you're
about that, so
I love that you're asking me this. This is wonderful. So I do have a countdown on Twitter. I'm posting it every day on Twitter. Maybe that annoys some people. I think it's kind of fun. It's just like something to look forward to. So right now, 17 days until the Reese's Senior Bowl. 56 days until NFL free agency, and we just hit under 100 days. So now we're at 99 until the NFL draft. So yeah, we got a long way to go, but what do we got better to do? So.
Oh yeah, that Senior Bowl is going to be pretty awesome for us to cover. So it's going to be good.
I'm thinking that's the thing. Like last off season, I'm trying to think of what we even did for the Senior Bowl, and I don't even know if we actually did a very good job of covering it or even talking about it. So it'll be. What'd you say, Mike?
We did it.
Yeah. We were still babes. But anyway, we will be definitely talking a lot about the Senior Bowl. There will be definitely a lot to talk about. And again, that's only, what did I say, 17 days away? So that's nothing. Drop in the bucket. Hope you guys have an awesome night. Thank you very, very much for all the support. There will be videos posted this weekend on the channel. So again, like, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoy. Go Jets! Oh, my sound effects are off. Crap. Let's try that again. Wait a minute. Here we go. There we go. All right. Hope you all have a great night. Go Jets. Word from my daughter. Peace, guys. Have a great night.